Haven't said too much in videos about the situation with Vasily Lomachenko, his situation with trying to negotiate fights with both Guillermo Rigondeaux as well as Nicholas Walters. But some of you that may have seen some of my comments floating around here on some of the other YouTube boxing community uploaders channels will know my general thoughts on that whole thing. I never really liked either of those fights, to be honest with you. I didn't really. I thought that the winner of both the Lomachenko Rigondeaux and the Lomachenko Walters fights, I thought the winner of both of those fights would wind up becoming very, very overrated. Especially in the latter case. Especially in the latter case, because originally, of course, there was the whole thing where Lomachenko was saying that he was too big to drain down to 124 for Rigo, and then he was too small to fight Nicholas Walters at 130, which is crazy considering the fact that he won his Olympic gold at 132 in the amateurs. Sure, it was a same day weigh-in, but come on. I mean, yeah, I believe it was he was 137 fight night for one of his last couple of fights. Can't remember which one exactly, but he's not a small featherweight, so that was a load of BS as far as I was concerned. But I also didn't like the idea of him trying to drain down and being a weakened version of himself versus Rigo. And then going back to the whole Walter situation is, to me, the winner between a Lomachenko versus Walters fight at 130 or catch weight somewhere between 126 and 130 was meaningless because neither of them are a world champion at 130. Matter of fact, the 130 division is one of the most stacked divisions in boxing. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that when you consider the fact that you have a power puncher like Javier Fortuna there, who took care of business against Brian Vasquez last year pretty well. Of course, Brian Vasquez had already been knocked out before then by one Takashi Uchiyama, which means that Uchiyama is definitely somebody to be reckoned with at 130 pounds. Most definitely. Personally, I would rate him number one at the weight class. Then you have, of course, his old rival Takashi Miura. The two of them engaged in a brutal war against each other, with Uchiyama eventually stopping Miura late. I believe it was the 10th round. And then, of course, Miura would go on to become a world champion, and then lose his title last year, last September. What was it, September or October? It was on the Canelo Cotto undercard. Stealing the show, mind you, against Francisco Vargas. Francisco Vargas, another tough son of a bitch to be reckoned with at 130 pounds. To say nothing of course, the man who beat Lomachenko. The man who beat Lomachenko, of course, being Orlando Salido, and the man who beat him being Roman Martinez. Albeit that second fight, regardless of the fact that it was considered a draw, I thought Salido won that fight. So when the rumors were coming about talking about Lomachenko versus Martinez, that kind of piqued my interest, but I'll get to that in a second. You also have Jose Pedraza there, the IBF super featherweight champion. So, amidst the likes of Takashi Uchiyama, Takashi Miura, Francisco Vargas, Javier Fortuna, Roman Martinez, Jose Pedraza, and a newcomer on the scene, actually, Miguel Berchelt, who's the mandatory for Roman Martinez. A fight between Lomachenko and Walters, to me, didn't say anything other than who was maybe the fourth best fighter in the division. And that's being slightly generous when you consider the things that these other fighters have been doing lately at the weight class. When they started talking about Vasily Lomachenko versus Roman Martinez, I thought, okay, I mean, that's not a bad fight, but Martinez was supposed to fight over a month ago against Miguel Berchelt. Pulled out of that fight at the last minute with a supposedly injured hand. I mean, personally, I never saw proof of it. I mean, I could be wrong, though. Obviously, they managed to file some sort of a extension with the WBO. Martinez's team, PR Best Boxing, did. And so, I mean, I guess they managed to, of course, keep the title. Burchelt wound up winning the interim version of the title, just in case Martinez wound up dropping the belt altogether. Now, if Martinez fights Vasily Lomachenko, as far as I'm concerned, that fight means a lot less than fighting the other world champions, precisely because of the fact that Miguel Burchelt is a very dangerous opponent, a very dangerous mandatory, and a guy that I considered a major, not only knockout threat to Roman Martinez, but I would favor Miguel Burchelt to beat Roman Martinez by knockout, doing something that Salido didn't do, putting Burchelt, you know, amongst that high top tier at 130 pounds. Now, of course, I'm going more off of eye test than resume, um, in the grand scheme of things, anyway. But Burchelt's resume isn't bad. 29-1 with 26 knockouts. I mean, pretty much shows that he's a bona fide puncher, bona fide head busser. So, in light of the new news now that Vasily Lomachenko may be fighting Javier Fortuna, I like that fight a lot. I like that fight a lot more than Martinez versus Burchelt. Fortuna was supposed to be engaging in the WBA's whole unification thing that has yet to really be fleshed out at all, by facing Takashi Uchiyama. But for whatever reason, that fight, I guess, didn't happen. Uchiyama supposedly was in talks with Walters as well, and it looks like that didn't happen because he's fighting Jezreel Corrales. Excuse me. At the end of this month. So, Fortuna, of course, is the what is he? The regular or the interim WBA champion? It's hard to keep track anymore. But Fortuna, to me, is a much more interesting opponent for Lomachenko. Fortuna, as far as I'm concerned, could be rated number 3 and number 4 in the division. You wouldn't really get much of an argument out of either rating. And he's a guy that, in spite of the fact that he's had trouble in the past, he's had issues both making weight in the past as well as issues in terms of fighting certain technical boxers in the past. He's still undefeated. His only blemish on his resume is the split draw that he had with Luis Franco, which, I mean, Franco's a good boxer. So if you've ever watched that fight, you'll see why that's not that bad of a blemish, along with the fact that it was frankly a bit of a gift draw to Franco. Fortuna controlled the action by and large in that fight, in spite of the fact that Franco hit him with a lot of nice clean shots. Fortuna also showed a little bit of trouble against Brian Vasquez in their fight, and also against Abner Cotto. Cotto managed to frustrate him a little bit with, but although that a lot of that had to do with Cotto fouling as well as Cotto. I mean, Cotto's not a bad fighter himself. He's just a erratic fighter, and even then, Fortuna took care of business and took him out. In spite of the fact that he lost his tempo a little bit in the ring, he probably shouldn't have. Which could be, of course, a weakness against Lomachenko. It was a bit of a weakness when he fought Patrick Hyland, but to me, as far as I was concerned, I thought he was definitely weight trained in that Patrick Hyland fight. If he comes into this fight healthy, which, I mean, he could be pushing it considering his age, 26, as well as the fact that he's fought as high as lightweight all the way back when he was 20 years old. If he comes in good shape, I think he's going to be the toughest opponent yet for Lomachenko. Every bit as tough as Salido. Every bit as tough as him. Because regardless of the fact that he doesn't have the vast degree of experience that Salido had, he also doesn't have all the wear and tear on him that Salido had. Salido has been knocked down at least a dozen times. Couple dozen times. What was it, about 4 times by Turtsek Jondang? Or Turtsek Kokijim, as he was known when he fought Salido. Dropped 4 times against Wang Haya. Dropped 3 or 4 times against Mikey Garcia. I believe he got dropped against Gamboa, too. Not sure. Not sure if Marquez dropped him. I know Marquez beat him pretty cleanly and clearly though. But Fortuna is a damn good fight. I like that fight. I consider him a better opponent than a Roman Martinez, who at that point would be ducking Miguel Berchelt. I consider him a better fight than unproven at super featherweight Nicholas Walters, a guy whose marquee wins are against two guys who, sure, they were very huge for that weight class, but they were ex flyweights, Victor Chinian and Nonito Donaire. Two guys who, they made most of their bones at super flyweight and bantamweight. Knocking them out is what you're supposed to do if you're a really good fighter. So, while the way Walters did it was pretty impressive, considering the level of class that Darchinian and Donaire are capable of, it's still what's supposed to happen. Very good man beats very good big man beats very good little man. So, Walters versus Mariaga and versus Sosa, I think showed that his power doesn't quite go as far. And in spite of the fact that he managed to show off some pretty good boxing skills in both of those fights, I'm still not sure if those boxing skills get him out of wars with a victory against the likes of Uchiyama Miura, Vargas, Salido, Fortuna, and so on. With Lomachenko, it's a little bit of a different story. It's more about, can you out physical him? Can you bully him? Although there were a lot of spots in that fight with Salido where he did get outclassed. His inside game is lacking to a pretty good degree. Salido definitely exposed that. But Fortuna isn't necessarily the cleanest guy on the inside himself. He's pretty good. He's pretty tricky. He throws from awkward angles with heavy hands. But all that's pretty much to say that this is an intriguing fight. Lomachenko versus Fortuna is a very intriguing fight. It's an upgrade from both Walters. It's an upgrade from Walters. It's an upgrade from Rigo, and it's an upgrade from Martinez. Javier Fortuna can sleep people. He's a he's a bit of a monster at that weight, man. I rate him. So, Vasyl Lomachenko versus Javier Fortuna. I like that fight. I hope it gets made. Leave all that other bullshit behind, because all that other stuff is, frankly, it frankly doesn't measure up to the level of physicality, the level of power, the level of strength that Fortuna can bring in order to negate the supposed boxing skills of Vasyl Lomachenko. And I only say supposed in light of some of the hyperbole that surrounds the guy. He's a very skilled fighter. But when skills match brawn, I think sometimes we get some of the nicest matchups with regard to that. So long as one guy isn't clearly overmatched against the other. And I don't think that's the case here. I think these guys are very, very, very well matched. So, that's my thoughts on that. Let me know yours if you give a damn. But I'm finished for this one. Peace.